Life will never be still, it keeps moving. Sometimes slowly, sometimes too fast to catch up with, and often it changes direction, even before we're ready. People are often exhausted not because life is too heavy, but because they try to hold on to things that can't be held. They want to make sure everything goes their way, forgetting that the world never bows to individual will. So, what can we do? Should we give up? Should we run? No, we stand calm, rooted, because in a world we cannot control, there is still one small domain that we can fully command: our own mind. And from there, Stoicism begins. A philosophy that offers no shortcuts but a path anyone can walk, as long as they are ready to grow, not in age, but in soul. A way of life that doesn't promise instant happiness but slowly builds strength, in solitude and observation, in quiet inner training. You begin to notice it. The moment you stop chasing control, you start finding peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on everything going right, but the kind that exists even when nothing does. Because the Stoic doesn't wait for the world to calm down, he calms himself, and then walks through the world differently. He understands that pain will come, loss will come, confusion will come, but none of those things need to own him. He remembers one truth: what disturbs your mind is not what happens but your judgment of it. This is the shift, from victim to observer, from reactor to responder, from being ruled by life to walking beside it. Steady. We've been taught to fight everything, to resist, to rage, to prove our point. But resistance without clarity is just chaos. And the Stoic knows sometimes what needs to change and is not the world, but how we carry it. So he practices, every day, not in grand gestures, but in tiny inner victories, holding his tongue when anger rises, choosing silence instead of noise, accepting what he cannot change, acting with courage on what he can. And in those small moments, he is free. No one teaches you how to be calm in a world that profits from your panic. They tell you to be fast, to be loud, to be visible, but they never tell you how to be still, how to think before you speak, how to sit with discomfort without escaping. But the Stoic learns this on his own, through observation, through falling and rising again, through 1,000 small choices made when no one is watching. He understands you can't control how people treat you, but you can control what you allow to stay in your mind. You can't stop the storm from coming, but you can become the one who doesn't flinch when it hits. The Stoic doesn't pretend life is easy, he just stops expecting it to be. And with that shift, he becomes lighter. He stops fighting reality and starts flowing with it, not in weakness but with purpose. Not giving up but letting go of what was never his to carry. So much of our suffering is borrowed from the past, borrowed from the future, borrowed from what other people think. But here now in this moment, you can set it down. You can choose presence, you can return to your breath, you can remember. Peace is not a destination, it's a practice, and the doorway is always now. We often chase after things believing they'll complete us: status, attention, approval, as if peace is waiting somewhere out there and just beyond the next achievement. But the Stoic sees through this illusion. He doesn't deny pleasure, he just refuses to be ruled by it. He doesn't reject ambition, he just understands that without virtue, ambition becomes chaos. And he doesn't chase happiness because he knows happiness is not something to be chased. It is what grows quietly when you live in alignment with your values. So he returns again and again to the simple, solid ground of the present. Not what he wants, not what he fears, but what is. This moment, this breath, this choice. The Stoic understands that control is not power. Control is fear wearing armor. But acceptance and the ability to see what is and not be broken by it, that is real strength. So he trains, not with muscles or weapons, but with awareness. He watches his thoughts, he filters his speech, he simplifies his life. And in doing so, he clears space for something rare, a calm that doesn't disappear when life gets loud. They asked the Stoic, "What if everything falls apart?" And he replied, "Then I will begin again calmly. Because when you are rooted in your values, nothing external can truly destroy you. Yes, you may lose money, you may lose people, you may lose recognition, comfort, even your health. But you never lose your ability to choose. And choice is the birthplace of freedom. You can choose to act instead of react, to forgive instead of blame, to learn instead of complain. And with each choice, you shape your character, not in a single day, but over a lifetime. The Stoic does not avoid the fire. He walks through it because he knows that fire refines. Every hardship and a chance to become deeper, every failure, a doorway to strength. So he stops asking for the storm to end and instead asks himself, what kind of person do I want to be in this storm? Because in the end, that's all you ever control. Not the storm, but who you become inside it. And when you become still, when you return to the moment with clarity, you discover something powerful. Peace was never missing, you just had to stop running. Not everything needs a reaction. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every injustice must be fought today. The Stoic knows this. Time reveals, time humbles, time heals. So he is not in a rush to defend his name, prove his worth, or win every argument. He has learned the quiet power of restraint, because true strength is not about always speaking. It's about knowing when silence says more. The world will often reward noise, the one who shouts, the one who shows off, the one who forces his presence into every room. But the Stoic is not interested in performing. He is building something far more enduring: integrity, self-respect, inner stillness. He walks into a room and you feel something different, not because of how loud he is, but because of how deeply grounded he is. He is not chasing peace, he is peace. And that peace was not given, it was earned through self-observation, through failure, through long nights of reflection. Because in the end, the world doesn't change just because you scream at it. It changes when enough people change themselves. So let that be your quiet revolution, to live deliberately, to respond with purpose, to carry yourself like a flame, not one that burns wildly, but one that stays lit, even in the wind. There's something sacred about slowing down, about moving through life with presence, not rushing from one distraction to the next. The Stoic doesn't fear stillness. He embraces it because he knows. Stillness is where clarity speaks. In stillness, the truth rises to the surface. Your fears, your ego, your attachments, they all become visible. And once they are visible, they can no longer control you. But it takes courage to sit in that quiet, to not reach for your phone, to not numb your discomfort, to not run from your thoughts. Because the hardest prison to escape is the one we build in our own mind. That's why Stoicism isn't about pretending to be calm. It's about doing the deep, slow work of becoming calm. Not just when life is easy, but especially when life is not. So when the world becomes too much, don't always respond by adding more noise. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is pause, breathe, listen to what your own soul is trying to say beneath the pressure. And in that moment, you return to your power. Because true freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. True freedom is not needing to. The modern world tells you that you are never enough. Not successful enough, not fast enough, not attractive enough, not productive enough. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life running toward a finish line that keeps moving. But the Stoic steps off that track. He doesn't let society define his worth. He reclaims his mind from comparison, from envy, from the endless chase. Because he knows you are not what you own. You are not what others think of you. You are the choices you make when no one is watching. That is character. That is power. That is freedom. So he builds his life not on image, but on substance. Not on applause, but on quiet consistency. He does the work, the small invisible work that no one celebrates, like staying kind when it's easier to be cold. Like telling the truth when a lie would be safer. Like walking away when ego says fight. This is not weakness, this is mastery. A life lived with intention, not reaction. A soul that isn't tossed around by the world, but that moves through it with grace, anchored, aware, awake. Because in the end, the only reputation that matters is the one you hold with yourself. And when you can look in the mirror and respect the one looking back, that's peace no one can take. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about love. It's about loving yourself enough to do what is hard, because it's right. To say no when your lower self screams yes. To walk away from comfort. and step into challenge with quiet resolve. The Stoic does not wait for motivation. He moves with clarity because motivation fades, but purpose, that stays. So he asks himself daily, what am I feeding? Which part of me is growing? And he chooses again and again to feed the part that's solid, the part that keeps going even when no one claps. Because the world won't always reward your effort, but your soul will remember. Your soul remembers every time you chose honesty over ease, patience over rage, presence over escape. And those choices, they build the architecture of your inner temple. Brick by brick, breath by breath, silence by silence. This is not a life of comfort, but it is a life of meaning. And meaning is what holds you when everything else falls apart. So keep showing up. Keep doing the invisible work. Keep walking even if no one sees you. Because strength is not in what the world gives you. It's in what the world can't take away. There will be days when everything feels heavy, when your mind is loud and the world feels distant, when even getting out of bed feels like a small war. But on those days, remember, you're not failing. You're learning how to carry weight without collapsing. The Stoic doesn't expect every day to be good. He expects himself to show up anyway. He knows that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like tears held back in a silent room. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to give up again. So don't wait to feel perfect. Don't wait to feel ready. Just take the next small step, then the next. And maybe today, that step is simply breathing. Maybe it's standing still with grace. Maybe it's refusing to speak words you'll regret. Whatever it is, know this. Every small act of courage builds a foundation the storm cannot shake. And one day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see you became unbreakable. Not because the world got easier, but because your soul got stronger. Thank you for walking with us on this long, quiet journey. If this reflection has brought you calm, if it reminded you that you are stronger than your fears, and that peace lives inside your choices, then stay with us. Subscribe this channel, because here we don't shout, we don't chase trends. We train the soul, with words that stay long after the video ends. Silence may be rare, but so are you, and your inner strength deserves to be remembered. Until we meet again, walk with clarity, stand with purpose, and live with intention.